Okay, so it's September and that can only mean one thing, the release of a new GoPro, and in this case we're talking about the Hero 10 Black. So last year we saw the introduction of the Hero 9 Black, and that introduced some fantastic new abilities such as the max lens mod, which allowed you to have complete horizon leveling over 360-degree rotation while still retaining an incredibly wide angle of view. Now, the Hero 9 used the GP1 chip, which was introduced back with the Hero 6 Black, but by now it had started to show its age. With the Hero 10, we're seeing the introduction of the GP2, and that brings a whole host of new capabilities to the camera, as well as making it a lot nicer to use. The appearance of the camera is pretty similar to the Hero 9. It's ever so slightly darker, but from the outside, apart from the blue writing, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference if you were glancing at it on somebody's helmet or on a mount. Inside is a different matter. The internals have been redesigned, and that allows for a better thermal profile, and it also shaves a tiny little bit of weight off it as well. But it's the GP2 chip that's inside the Hero 10 Black which is the star of the show. This transforms the camera. If you've had problems with the interface on the Hero 9 being a little bit jerky and laggy and having false presses, for example, you don't get any of that with the Hero 10. The interface is a complete change. It runs incredibly smoothly. It's much more like a smartphone than you'd be used to with the old GoPros. It's been a long time coming, and I'm really thankful to see it here now. The new chip also allows the camera to perform new frame rates, such as 120 frames per second in 4K. Remember, that's in a camera this size, and you know, that's quite incredible when you think about it. Incredibly, we now have 5.3K at up to 60 frames per second. The Hero 9 could do 5K, but only up to 30 frames per second. Now, you might be thinking that GoPro has put an entirely new sensor in the camera. I haven't had this confirmed, but I don't think this is a case. The Sony IMX677, which was in the Hero 9, is more than capable of the resolutions and frame rates that are inside the Hero 10. It's just that the GP1 processor couldn't take advantage of them all in the previous camera. Because the Hero 10 is using a larger area of the sensor to get that higher resolution, it also improves things across the board. For example, HyperSmooth doesn't have quite as much as a crop-in 16:9 mode. You will notice, for example, if you put the Hero 10 Black into linear plus horizon leveling and boost and compare that to the Hero 9 in the same mode, you'll notice that the Hero 10 has a noticeably wider field of view than the Hero 9. This doesn't work for all modes. In 4.3 modes, I believe it doesn't happen, but in most 16:9 modes, it does. And that means that if you are using the camera for POV shots and you want a little bit more stabilization, you're going to be able to get that much wider perspective than you could with the previous camera. The picture quality has been improved too. Again, thanks to the GP2 processor, noise reduction can be much more sophisticated, and if you compare this with the Hero 9, you will notice a considerable improvement, particularly within detail in shadow areas. The colour science has also been improved with the Hero 10. You now have 3 picture profile modes. You have vivid, natural and flat. Now, flat is if you really want to go the whole hog and do your full grading, and you might be integrating with other cameras that are shot in log mode. For me, natural is a fantastic new profile. It has realistic colours, lots of detail, without going over the top with saturation, yet it's still a nice punchy image. So for me, the natural profile is a winner on this camera. Now, the lens protector that comes with the Hero 10 is still compatible with the Hero 9, but it's got some significant improvements. They've improved the scratch resistance, but they've also made it hydrophobic. This for me is a very big thing indeed, because I do a lot of water sports, as you can see from where I am at the moment. In previous GoPros, you have to lick the lens or apply some kind of liquid substance to it to make the water droplets bead off. You no longer have to do this with the Hero 10 Black. You can just turn your camera on and go. And so far, in all the tests that I've done a bit of surfing, I've taken the kayak out on the white water, and I haven't had a single problem with water droplets like I would have done on other cameras. The GP2 processor has improved the startup time, and it's also improved the processing times for images. So for example, if you're taking a super photo, for example, in my comparison tests, I've noticed that the Hero 10 tends to process the image within about a third of the time of the Hero 9. With RAW, it seems to be about half the time. So there's definite improvements there. It's not instantaneous, but it's still an improvement over the previous camera. The screen on the rear of the Hero 10, it's not the bezel-less design that a lot of people are hoping for. It's still the same size as the Hero 9. But the fact that the touch interface is hugely improved over the Hero 9, it doesn't matter to me at all. I would much rather have the better user experience than just simply a larger screen. If you're a hardcore user of GoPro cameras, you may have noticed that on the Hero 9, in the 4K modes, when you turned off or dialed down the sharpness setting, things could look a little bit soft. The Hero 10 improves things hugely across the board. Personally, I always use the low sharpness setting. If I need to get any sharpness back in post, I will dial it back there rather than let the camera do it, because it means I've got much more control over it. And it's one reason why I do like the GoPro cameras, because of that creamy, smooth image that they have. There's no compression artifacts. You can stick your nose right up against the screen looking for them and you'll never find them. Interestingly, the files on the Hero 10 are slightly smaller than those on the Hero 9. In addition to that, I've noticed that the files tend to play back more smoothly on my laptop. I don't know why this is. I think the compression system on the Hero 10 must be more efficient. All the previous accessories for the Hero 9 are usable with the Hero 10. For example, the media mod, the max lens mod, and any spare parts such as the side door, for example, they're all compatible with the Hero 10. So no need to upgrade all your components. The floaty works the same. Everything works just the same with the Hero 10 as it does with the Hero 9, with no need to invest in any new replacement parts or mods. Yet another thing that the GP2 processor has improved is the front display. Now the front display, when you press record on the Hero 9, the frame rate used to drop. This is not the case with the Hero 10. You get pretty much a full frame rate on the front screen, and that makes it a lot easier to frame your shots if you're doing selfies or trying to mount the camera in an awkward place where you're reliant on the front screen to get the framing. Another new feature on the Hero 10 for this year is automatic uploads to the cloud. Now, if you are a subscriber to GoPro, then you now have unlimited storage space. Within the Quick app, you can set up the auto uploads, and that will transfer to the camera your Wi-Fi settings and your GoPro account details. When you next connect your Hero 10 to a charger, once it is fully charged, it will then automatically start backing up the full resolution, full quality files to the GoPro cloud system. Now, this can save you a lot of time. If, for example, you get back from a trip and you just don't want to be dealing with offloading SD cards to your laptop, you can just connect your camera up to the charger and just leave it. Go and have dinner, go and have a night out with the family, whatever. But you can rest assured that the camera will be uploading your footage in full quality to the cloud, ready for you to access at any time from whichever device you use to connect your GoPro account. That's a pretty handy feature. You'll need a fast internet connection, of course, so for those who are stuck on low-speed broadband, this might not be as advantageous as it sounds, but if you do have fast internet, it's a nice little touch. I like it. Battery life on the Hero 10 would appear to be very similar to the Hero 9. I've had both cameras running side by side, and the percentage on the battery display seems to be running down at exactly the same rate. Now, I can't vouch that that's going to be the same if you continuously run it at 120 frames per second in 4K, but in general use, you're going to get very similar battery run times on this camera as you did with the Hero 9, which is already an improvement on previous cameras such as Hero 8 and 7. I haven't had any freezes with this camera. The only issue I had was with a dodgy SD card, and when the camera powered back on eventually, it repaired the corrupted file and I was on my way. But other than that, I haven't had any other freezes with this camera so far. Touch wood, that's going to continue to be the case. I suspect that the GB2 processor has changed things much more substantially inside. There'll be less bugs that appear due to the fact that the processor is being overloaded or being taxed. For me, the Hero 10 is a big upgrade on the Hero 9. Now, each year we know that there's going to be a better GoPro. It's always going to be the case. Some people were predicting that the GP2 wouldn't be until the next camera, but here it is, and it's made a massive difference to how this camera operates. So if GoPros are a big part of your workflow, and they are part of the way that you make your living, for example, then I can wholeheartedly recommend upgrading to the Hero 10. It is an entirely new experience.